I have always had an interest in the paranormal. And when I was a kid, I had a few terrifying experiences when we lived in a townhouse in the south end of town. The truth of the matter is, however, that I don't think that townhouse was haunted. I say that because years later, I met someone who by complete coincidence had also lived in the very same townhouse. When I asked them if they had ever experienced anything paranormal there, they squinted their eyes at me and asked, "You mean like a ghost?" "Yes," I answered. They blinked and said, "No, never." And I never heard any talk about it the whole time we lived there, which was about 10 years. No, I do not believe the house was haunted. I believe it may have been me. When I say that, I do not mean that I believe myself to be haunted. No, far from it. I mean that I think certain members of the spirit world had my number and had gotten gist of what I would grow up to do. They knew long before I did that I would not outgrow my interest in the paranormal, and that I would go on to study it, investigate it, and learn all I could about house clearings and the negative side of the spirit world. They knew I had a calling, and my calling was to go up against them. So of course, it comes as no surprise that they would show up every so often and try to scare the shit out of me when I was a child. There were several experiences in that home, but there is one in particular that stands out the most terrifying of them all, and I will share it with you now. Even today, when I speak of this, I still get goosebumps. I have forgotten the time of year this experience happened in, but that is beside the point anyhow. But I do remember that it did happen during the middle of the night, like most experiences like these do. The upstairs of our townhouse had 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. At the top of the staircase was a broom closet. Beside that was my mom's bedroom at the back of the house. Beside her bedroom, looking left, was the bathroom, followed by my brother's room, and then at the very end of the hall was my bedroom. I was the furthest from the staircase and the furthest from the bathroom. My mom's room and my room faced each other from the opposite end of the hallway. In between us was my brother. In order to get to the bathroom, I would have to pass my brother's room, but stop short of my mom's room. In order to get to the staircase, I would have to pass by all the rooms. From the doorway of the bathroom, you faced the staircase from the side. So if someone were coming up the stairs, you would see them from their left side as they climbed the stairs. Most children are afraid of the dark, and you would probably expect that I would say I was no different. Yes, I was cautious of the dark, but I don't ever remember being afraid of it. That is, up until that night. On that night, I awoke in the middle of the night with the urge to go to the bathroom. Normally, I would have just got up, walked to the bathroom in the dark, then returned to bed. But on this night, something just felt off. It was as though the entire house had lost all sound. The air just seemed stale and thick and heavy, and it was eerily still and quiet. No sound of a ticking clock. No breathing or snoring coming from the other 2 rooms. No sounds from our 2 cats. The only thing in that moment making any sort of noise was the noise my bladder was making, letting my brain know that it was full. But I stayed in bed and waited, hoping that whatever I was feeling would subside and I would feel safe again. Sadly, it didn't. And sadly, my urge to pee didn't lighten either. I probably considered wetting my bed, but I hadn't wet my bed in years, and I knew my mom would be upset if I did that. And I knew my bladder wouldn't wait until morning. I had to face the inevitable. I had to leave my room, walk down the dark hall, and use the toilet. Might as well get this over with. As I sat up, the sound of me sliding along my bed sheets and the slight creak the bed made was a bit of a relief as it seemed to pierce the eerie silence. My bare feet touched the cold tiled floor, but before I stood up, I did something I usually didn't do. I reached over and turned my bedside lamp on. The warm glow filled the dark room with light, which would have made me feel better, except it now made the hallway look a lot darker, as though a giant, black, gaping void now awaited me just past my bedroom door. I stood up and put one foot in front of the other and made my way towards the blackness. My pace quickened as I made it to the hall. I passed my brother's room, and the bathroom was now only a couple of steps away. I made it. And as I stepped inside, I immediately reached my arm up to turn the switch on to illuminate the dark bathroom in light, and I quickly shut the door behind me. My journey was half over. All I had to do was go pee, then make my way back down the hall and back to my bed. Our staircase had a creaky step, either the second or third one from the bottom. When weight was put on it, it would make like a pop sound, followed by a long creak. But it would only do this under a certain weight. Our cats, for example, weren't heavy enough to make the stair pop. As I sat down on the toilet, I heard the pop, creak, but followed by nothing else. No other sound of footsteps followed the pop and the creak. When I finished peeing, I continued to sit on the toilet with my underwear around my ankles, listening. It was so quiet, and that unsettling feeling of heaviness returned. I stared at the bathroom door, and my heart began to thump against my chest as I started to get the feeling that it would suddenly fly open and some horrible creature would come crashing inside. My ears began to ring, my breathing quickened, and I waited. But nothing happened. The door stayed shut. Eventually, my bum started to hurt from sitting on the ceramic toilet seat for too long. I got up, pulled my underwear up, and proceeded to the sink to wash my hands. I made sure to make it a quick hand wash. I was too afraid to flush the toilet. I was now standing right beside the closed bathroom door. I didn't want to open it. I knew that opening it would mean that I would have to turn out the bathroom light and walk out into the darkness. My heart was still thumping against my chest. My ears were still ringing. All of my senses at this point seemed to be on high alert. I didn't understand what was going on. I was afraid, but I didn't seem to know why. I probably considered sleeping in the bathtub at this point. My hand reached for the door handle. I turned it, the door clicked, and I opened the door. Darkness and silence. But other than that, nothing. I clicked off the bathroom light and proceeded out into the hall, and that is when I noticed that the lamp I had left on in my bedroom was off. Now, I was really terrified. It was also then that I realized my nose was cold. That led me to the realization that all of me was cold. My mom's room was straight to my left. I could just run in there and sleep in her room for the night. No, I couldn't do that. She would have sent me right back to my room. As I put one foot in front of the other to make the trek down the hall to my room, I remembered what we used to sing in my grade 1 class. Jesus loves me. So I began to hum that. Then I began to sing the words in a very shaky voice. Tears began to well up in my eyes, but I kept singing in a very small voice. Pop! Creak. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Someone or something was now walking up the stairs. Was it my mom? Was it my brother? Was it a murderer that had broken into our house? I could stand there in the dark and find out who was coming up the stairs, but suddenly my fight or flight instinct kicked into overdrive. I bolted the last remaining steps into my bedroom, flung myself onto my bed, and covered myself in my sheets up to my chin. No, I didn't cover my head. Thump. 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 The footsteps got closer to reaching the top of the stairs. I could see the top of the staircase from my bedroom during the day, but it was so pitch black I couldn't make anything out. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs, almost making a sliding sound as they reached the tiled floor. My eyes tried so hard to adjust the darkness, I could see nothing. The footsteps continued, past my mom's room, past the bathroom, and now heading straight for my room. I couldn't move. I could hear footsteps, but I couldn't make out a silhouette of a figure of any kind. There was nothing there, but whatever it was sounded huge and walked really heavy. Why could my mom and brother not hear this? One of them should have woken up. As I lay there in bed, certain I was about to die, a very slight ping sound came from beside my bed, and suddenly the light bulb lit up, and as it did so, the footsteps stopped. I'm sure that whatever was there was standing just outside my bedroom door. I heard no other sound that night, and the eerie stillness that had fallen on the house, along with the heaviness in the air, seemed to subside immediately. It was as though the light suddenly became some sort of wall. I never saw anything that night, but I know what I heard, and I know how I felt. Something sinister was in our home, and it was very much aware of me. I told my mom about it the next morning. "You had a bad dream, that is all," she tried to tell me. I slept with my bedroom light on for the next week and made sure I went to the bathroom before bed. To this day, I still make sure to go to the bathroom before I climb into bed. And although the experience was absolutely terrifying, and I honestly don't think I have ever been so scared, something else was also in that house. Something caused my light to turn back on right when I needed it to. Something else was there to protect me. I did have other experiences in that house, but nothing like what I experienced that night. I will never forget it.